Hey there, Caitlin here, Snap-Ed Nutrition Educator in Waldo County, Maine. Today I am jumping on the viral trend of homemade bread. I eyeballed this recipe, which probably wasn't a great idea, but I'll link below to the Snap-Ed recipe in the description box. So first I went to Job Lots in Belfast to check out what they had for Dutch ovens, and they actually have some pretty decent options. They have ones that the lid can be a pan on its own, or they have the lid is a frying pan, lots of different options, and they were $25 to $30. But be creative and use what you've got. So we're going to start with some yeast. I got the highly active yeast because I am not very lucky with yeast and rising and all that stuff, and I thought, yeah, the more activity the better. We'll see if that actually worked out in my favor, but that's what I tried. So then I added 2 cups of lukewarm water, warm enough that I could feel the measuring glass was warm, but not hot. Not hot like a coffee, but warm enough that it would help that yeast bloom. Then once I stirred it all up, I transferred it back into the measuring cup so that I couldn't get my flour in the bowl. I used 3 cups of all-purpose flour and 1 cup of whole wheat flour in this recipe. There's the whole wheat. And then I added a little bit of salt and just stirred to combine all of that together. Oh, that was more than a little bit of salt, I guess. Stirred that to combine it all so that it was evenly mixed, and then I made a little well in the middle, like a little dip, so that I could pour the water in and slowly pull the flour into the middle to incorporate them all together. This is a very sticky dough. We're not kneading it. We're not going to be really stretching and developing that gluten, so it's going to be a little bit crumbly, but that's okay. It makes it easier to prepare, and I think it's still delicious. So once the spoon did as much as it could, I scraped off the dough, and then I got my hand in there and just wanted to make sure that all of those little shaggy bits came together. This is as close to kneading as I got in this recipe. You don't want it to look so shaggy because then that means that there's a little too much flour on the outside, and all those little bits will burn and they'll cook at like a different rate than the inside of the main loaf. We want it to all be like one cohesive lump of dough. So once I got that as best I could, I just covered it with a tea towel and let it sit for 2 hours. And this is what it looked like. I dumped it out onto a piece of parchment paper, and I had my Dutch oven preheating in the oven for about 45 minutes. It's really important to preheat it because the bread is cooking inside this Dutch oven, inside the pan that we're cooking it in. So it's like, it would be like putting pizza in a cold oven and then turning it on. It's not going to turn out quite right if it's not preheated, if it's not ready for you. Then I tried to make it fancy. You'll see in the end, you can't even tell the slits that I put in it. It just cracked however it wanted to. And then I drizzled it with a little bit of olive oil because I wanted the top to be nice and crunchy and golden and crisp. And then I sprinkled a little salt on the top just so it would have that like flaky, salty look artisan and fancy and all that. And then I put the lid on and popped her in the oven. Now remember, the pan is very hot, so be careful. 1 hour later, I took it out of the oven. You can see my parchment got a little crispy there. And look at that. It's filled the whole container. I definitely could have used a larger pan for this eyeballed recipe. But it's going to go back in the oven to get even crispier. The inside is all cooked and steamed and baked and delicious, and we're just going to crisp it on the outside. 20 minutes later, this is what it looked like. Isn't that beautiful? I was so proud. You can kind of see the little cuts that I made in it, but not really. It kind of split wherever it wanted to. Want more videos like this? Don't forget to subscribe. I tried to make another loaf with using all whole wheat flour. It came out delicious, but the texture was very different. This time I actually put the olive oil on the parchment paper instead of on top of the bread, and I still put the little salt on top of the bread so that it would look all fancy. And I didn't cut it because I figured, just like last time, it was probably going to do whatever it wanted to do. So I put that in the oven at 475 for 45 minutes. And this is what it looked like. It didn't puff as much as the first recipe, and I wonder if that has something to do with the flour. Then this time I turned the oven down to 400 for the second baking, and I just put it in for 15 minutes. I baked it a little less this time because the whole wheat flour doesn't taste as great when it's burnt, I think. But yeah, it came out great. It could have used a little more browning maybe on the top, but it sliced up really well. It was delicious and warm and everything I was looking for. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you give this a try. Stay safe, wash your hands, have fun with it, and as always, head to mainsnaped.org for more.